There she is, 300,000 miles.
This is a video right here that I have been hoping since day one of getting the Lexus that I would be able to record. As you saw just a minute ago, the old girl rolled over 300,000 miles. Obviously that's an impressive feat. You see a lot of 100, 200, not really many 300,000 mile vehicles. So it's pretty cool to be able to say that I have one myself, that I was the one that turned it over. Of course there are definitely higher mileage vehicles out there, but I wanted to show off mine a little bit. I've done an actual introduction, tour, and walk around of this before, but I wanted to kind of show how is it looking at 300,000 miles. I'm planning on having a couple different elements of this video, but I'm going to start off by doing an engine performance sort of test. I'll show you real quick what the oil is looking like, as I'm going to do an oil change now, and then I'm going to send in a sample to Blackstone Laboratories, which I've also done a video on, to show what kind of analysis I'll be able to get at 300,000 miles. With the power of YouTube magic, I'll be able to take care of that pretty quickly, but I'll get on changing the oil now. I'm trying to beat sunlight. It's 7:26 right now. I've got about a half hour of daylight left. Starting with the oil change, you can see that she still fires right up at 300,166 miles. I'll go ahead and shuffle through, and that's about when I last changed the oil. It's off by a little bit, so it's actually probably closer to about 5,830 miles since the last change. I typically do about 5,000, but a lot of the miles on this were highway miles because of the road trip that I just came back from, so I went a little bit over, and I wanted to make sure it actually hit 300,000 first. I'm going to go ahead and change the oil. I'm not going to bore you here with a whole oil change video because that is not what this video is about. I already have one of those, and if you want to check that out, I'll link it here once again, but I have my oil, I have my tools, I have more tools, and everything that I need to do. I have a little Blackstone analysis test kit from Blackstone Laboratories, so I'll go ahead and pop this open. And this little vial here is where I'm going to collect my oil. I'm going to collect that, I'm going to send it into Blackstone Labs, so with the power of YouTube magic, I'm going to put this down, I will snap my fingers, and when I do, it'll be full of oil. You ready? 1, 2, 3. Alright, that wasn't loud enough. I'll try again. 1, 2, 3. There we go. She's full of oil. So, I'll package that up in here, and then in there, and I will send that off to Blackstone Labs. I will have that sent out to their laboratories, and we will see what they have to say about the engine and how it's running. I'll tune back into this video once I get that back, which should be right about now. I have right here the analysis from Blackstone Labs pulled up. I received a little analysis over email, so I'll go ahead, throw that up here, and read it off to you. I have the oil report pulled up right in front of me, which reads as follows. Michael, this engine doesn't show any signs of slowing down soon as it passes the 300,000 mile mark. Wear metals are steady compared to the last sample, and even look a little better than they did back when the motor only had around 220,000 miles on it. Looking at the wear rate, which you can calculate by dividing metals by the hours on the oil, this is the lowest rate of steel wear we've seen from this engine. There's no contamination to contend with, the oil's viscosity read right in the range for 5W30, and insolubles remain low. We hope you get tons of views, as I did tell them I was putting this in a YouTube video. So that looks pretty great to me. If you look on the page as well, you can see that I sent in oil analysis samples at 220,387 miles, 225, 255, 230,000, and 250,000, and then I didn't do it again until 300,166 miles. When I sent in this sample here, there were 5,830 miles in the oil, so I'll put in the elements here, the properties here, so that you can take a look at them for yourself. In my opinion, and in their opinion too, all looks pretty good. So there you have it, the engine is still running solid in the Lexus. No complaints there, no surprises there, honestly, that thing's always treated me well, but how does the rest of the car look? Inside, outside, underneath? Let me show you. Let's take a look now at the outside of the Lexus. I have it sitting here before me. You can see it in all of its beauty. Sitting real pretty, looking nice. I'll get up close, I'll show you the good, the bad, the ugly, because there's plenty of just about everything. At over 300,000 miles, I simply can't complain about how the paint looks for the most part. Running here down the side, this is all original paint. I run it through my local drive-through car wash about 2-3 times a week as I have a membership there. I like to keep it clean, I like to keep it looking good. I like to deceive people into thinking there is a lot less miles on this than it actually has. The hood is the shiniest piece of the entire exterior of the car, but that is also because the hood is the newest body panel on the entire car. If you watched and remember from a few years back, I nailed a deer pretty good. I'll throw in a picture now. But I was able to rebuild it. I have 2 videos on that. I have one about when I initially hit it and what happened, and then I have one where I actually rebuilt the Lexus. If you're interested in those, I will throw them up here above. Be sure to go check that out. As you can see, compared to other Lexus GX models that you may see on the road, these headlights are super clear. These are also new along with the hood. The clip on that one broke, but this one over here was entirely shattered. I didn't just want to have one new headlight and one old headlight. I could have worked with a broken clip, but I decided it was better not to, so I went ahead and I replaced both. So those are new headlights in there. That's why that looks so clean. This is a new grille as well. I didn't do the best job when it came to putting it in. You can see there's a little bit of seam here. A little bit of glue on the emblem right here because I did have to rip that off the old one. But for the most part, outside of that, the front is all original. The fog lights were changed out as well, not too long after I did the rest of the front end. There is a little scuff mark right here from where I had my Christmas wreath on, and it rubbed right through the paint, which I'm very upset about, but you know what? You live and you learn. We'll move on here to the passenger side. This is one of two major dents in the vehicle. From when I hit the deer, I believe this is where the deer's head made contact, kind of whipped around, hit right there, and I've not been too bothered about pulling it back out. There are a couple little rust spots like right here and right here, so not too great, but not too bad either, all things considered. While I'm on this side as well, I will show you the tires. These are Falcon Wild Peak AT3W tires. I've loved them. They run really quiet for being all-terrain tires. I've had them on for about 12,000 miles so far. Zero complaints whatsoever. The wheels, however, are a different story. You can see that I have quite a bit of corrosion, quite a bit of peeling, quite a bit of old dust and dirt marks, and yada yada yada. They look pretty ugly. If I find the right set of wheels for the right price, maybe I'll go ahead and spring for them, but for the time being, I'm not too bothered by it because that is quite a bit of money to go dropping into this. The mirrors here do have some scratches, and the paint is more faded here than anywhere else. You can see that my reflection isn't nearly what it is in the paint right here. Not too bothered by that. Looks good otherwise. There are a couple small dings and imperfections. Right here, right here, right here. A couple small scratches going down the side. Whether or not that is from the rollers of the car wash or from other things down the road, quite literally, I am not sure. Some more little dings, scratches, dents right here, and the door handles right here contain quite a bit of scratches, presumably from going in, hitting with your nails, as such. The trim pieces running down here do have a little bit of wear from the sun, nothing too bad. I have stickers from all the places that I've taken this Lexus on this big summer road trip that I took it on. You can see my YouTube handle right there. I've had a few people subscribe based off there. They said they saw me driving around, which I thought was pretty cool. The wheels in the back don't necessarily look too much better, but what are you gonna do? There's the rest of the back for comparison. On the passenger side here, there is a patch that was put in the wheel well at one point. I'll throw in the pictures from where it rusted out. I had a friend who's a welder, and a very good one at that, put a patch in. It looks fantastic. It looks great on the inside too. I'll put in the pictures as I said. More stickers reside on the back windshield here. Nothing too interesting. Paint is holding up relatively well, except for down here. I don't know how this big scratch mark got right here, but it seems to be pretty deep. That also feels like plastic, so I'm not too worried about rust or anything. This, however, if the sunlight catches it right, you can see the distortion in my hand. That is the second big dent right there. I was working at a job about an hour and a half away from home. Not too bad, but big windstorm came through, and lo and behold, a fence blew and fell onto my car. So a giant chain link fence post was leaning on my bumper. I said I don't think there's any damage, and lo and behold, there was this dent here. Fortunately, this car's old, so I wasn't too worried about it. If it was something new, I probably would have filed an insurance claim or something of the sort, but I'm not too worried about it. Once again, I'm going to be saying that a lot. While I love this car and while I love to keep it clean, it does have 300,000 miles on it, so I'm not too uptight about keeping everything perfect. Moving on, a little bit of rust around this holder right here for the windshield wiper. 300,000 mile club sticker. The driver's side here is a pretty similar story to the passenger side. Not really too much. This gas cap is starting to give me problems. I'll show you what I mean now. If I go ahead and pop it open, it does not really pop open. So I kind of have to work my way, and that is the easiest that I've actually ever been able to get it open. Typically, I have to shimmy a credit card in there or something and pry at it. You can see a little bit of wear from where I've been prying in the past, but it does not really open past here. You can hear that because it's rusted. So I slowly pry it open. I'm worried it's going to rust off one of these days. It kind of is on its way. I did have to change the gas cap at one point, so that is not original. I was throwing a, I think, evap code, small leak, something like that, so went ahead and replaced it. Yeah, that sounds rough. Outside of that, though, and some stickers, different ones from the other side, this side is pretty much the same. If you haven't noticed yet, I did take off my running boards, so it does sit a little bit higher. Once again, made a video on that. Be sure to go and check it out. Looking from up here, wheels and tires remain about the same story. This little inside wheel well, it is a little bit loose. This piece is broken right down here if you see that. But otherwise it looks pretty good. There's a little bit of road paint something of the sort. Little white flecks right here that won't come off in the wash, but if I pick at them, they come off, but I haven't had the time to actually get on that and figure out what it is. A couple small dings and dents in the door right here. You can see the little scuff marks right here. The trim pieces going up the side have about the same wear as the ones in the back. And last but not least, we will take a look at the roof here. Not too much to see. There is a trim piece down here that has gone missing somewhere over the year. There are quite a few dents in the hood, which is, once again, my own wrongdoing there. I have a little Christmas tree that I put up here in the winter. I'll put the picture of that in now. I bought it off of eBay a few years ago, and I put it up every year for Christmas. That's done some damage on the hood, or on the roof, sorry. I'm not really too worried about that. You can see there are some faded paint marks here. The paint is not perfect up here. I don't know if that's scuffing from when I've had the roof rack on. I think there was some rust that wore down and kind of did some wear on it. It's really not perfect up here, but this is the one spot that if it doesn't look great, I'm not too worried about it, so long as it doesn't spread to the rest of the vehicle. And that's a wrap on the outside. Excusing the panel gaps here, and here, the dent here, and the custom welded patch panel here. I would say that I'm pretty impressed with how the exterior has held up so far. Now yes, some of those things here are my fault, some are not my fault, some are weather and wear related, and then some are things that I could have done better when repairing it, for example. My point here in this video is not to show off a perfect example, a pristine one. I'm just trying to show off my example and what I have. There are some examples out there that I've seen with lower miles that are way worse, and then I've seen mileage examples that are way higher, but are in much better shape. So this is just an average example in my opinion, trying to show off what I've got onto the inside. Let's go ahead and start with the inside. I'll open up the door here. The door panel here is all in decent shape. There's no major rips or anything here. A little fabric tear right there, but nothing too big. The locks do work, as they should. All of them do. All of the window switches work. The speakers still work fine. This one is starting to rattle a little bit. I do believe that it's on its way out. I have some LED lights which I swapped into here. This one looks like it's beginning to crack right here, if that'll show up on camera. Outside of that though, the door panel's in pretty good shape. The driver's side seat has no major tears, which is pretty impressive in my opinion. I've seen much lower examples tear pretty much way worse. The leather is still very firm. A little bit soft right here around this major cracking, but nothing yet. A little bit of cracking going on here. Otherwise, it is still as comfortable as it was on day one. This is an extremely comfortable seat. I am biased though, I do sit in it every day. However, it is nice that the power functions still work. The memory settings also work as well, so if I push the button on the door, it'll reset it to exactly how I had it before. The one thing that doesn't work is the lumbar support. If you hear that it was dead silent when I pressed that, that's because nothing happened. The lumbar motor is dead. It'll sometimes go in a little bit, but it won't go back out, so I don't really toy with it too much because I don't want it to get stuck inwards. I have a set of weatherproof mats right here on top of the stock mats. I know you're not really supposed to do that, but that's kind of how I keep it. Just have some double air, sound deadening, whatever you want to call it. Hood latches here, gas latches here, they both work fine as they should. Inverter still works, heated mirrors still work. This still works, but I don't ever use that because I'm not ever off-roading to the point where I might have my side curtain airbags going off. The vent here is cracked up here. Little housing isn't really in too bad of shape aside from that crack, so I haven't replaced it. There is some dash cracking going up here, if you can see that crease, and a little chunk missing right here. It's not terrible, but it is a little bit of an eyesore. Steering wheel motor still does work. Sometimes when it's cold out, it makes a really loud screeching sound, which it didn't want to demonstrate on camera. Maybe it's a bit camera shy, but still goes in. Car still starts up just fine. Power steering is a little tight. Still does its job though. I've driven a 2008 GX, which supposedly has the exact same power steering system, or at least it should. This one was significantly stiffer, so whether that means that it's just because I have about 120,000 more miles on it, or because it's getting old and ready to die, hopefully not the second, but that's how mine feels at least. All of the steering wheel controls work, cruise control works, wipers work, and the headlight controls work. You can see that I have no lights on the dash. I have the brake light on because my parking brake is on, door light is off now that it's closed, and the seatbelt light is blinking because I did not put on my seatbelt. You can see that I've put on some miles since I last recorded. I have 303,954 now. The infotainment system still works perfectly. Touchscreen is still responsive. It's obviously a very outdated system, as this is a 2005. This is pre I don't know, facelift, refresh, whatever you want to call it, but it does in fact get the job done. Little screen up here still works. Sometimes that temperature gauge decides to read all wacky. I'll get in on an 80-degree day and it'll say 117. Sometimes I'll get in on a 30-degree day and it'll read 1 degree, but it always ends up evening out after about 5 minutes or so. Cassette player does in fact still work. All of the HVAC controls work. Ashtray I have filled with wire nuts because I'm an electrician by trade. And then I have my car charger here. This works, center diff lock works. Buttons right here work. Now it's hard to see because it is bright out, but this lights up right here, and this one doesn't. So the bulb in my passenger side heated seat did in fact go out. Whenever I'm driving around in the dark and I want my heated seat, I have to reach around in the dark, and eventually I find it because it's not really that hard. There's not really that many options, but I'll reach down there, flip it up, and we're good to go. The leather pouch around my transfer case control is still in good shape, and as you can see, it shifts into gear just fine. Neutral, low, neutral, high. The same cannot be said about my transmission gear shift. You can see this little tear in the leather here, which kind of sucks, but when I sit here, it faces away from me, and it's like it's not even ripped. I'm gonna back off for the sake of saving gas. Yank my keys out of the ignition so it stops beeping at me. Or not. There we go. Parking brake still works as it should. Drop it down. Lift it up. It did not work when I got it, so I fixed that up, and it is good to go now. Pouch down here is also not ripped, which is very nice to see. The cup holders here flip up like that. They remain the worst cup holders I've ever used in pretty much any vehicle. I also don't really use the cup holders on other people's vehicles too much, but in mine at least they're terrible. They're about 1.5 inches deep, and if you put in a bottle or a cup of anything, as soon as you hit a turn, it'll go rolling into the passenger seat and onto the floor. Ask me how I know. The cover still does work though, so I can cover up the shallow cup holders, and the little middle center console here pops open, pops closed, and then it has a little cup holder inside, which I don't use as well. The armrest has a little bit of crackage, which makes it a little bit rough for my elbows. Kind of sucks, but I'm not usually too worried about it. Lights up here still work. Nothing too interesting. Handle is a little bit stained, but I can wipe that off if I scrape hard enough. The sunroof has decided to not work lately. I'm not going to demonstrate, you'll just have to take my word for it, but if I press that button, it'll either open halfway and get stuck, or it'll start creaking super loudly. I believe that it needs new grease on the tracks. I will go ahead and take care of that at some point or another, and hopefully have it fully operational once more. That's about all for the driver's seat. Moving on to the back seat here. Looks pretty good back here as well. I'll start with the door like it did in the front. Everything looks good. Everything's in good shape. Handles are in good shape. Still feels nice. Locks still work. Window switch still works. Ashtray, of course. The only thing that really bugs me is this little divot right here, little tear, whatever you want to call it. That was 100% my fault. When I was on this road trip this summer that I mentioned before and am currently working on videos getting out, I had the windows rolled down and I was at my grandmother's house. I was trying to reload some stuff onto the car, take some stuff off, yada yada yada. Cargo rack was full of bins, so I'm taking one of the big storage bins down. I told the guys, I don't need your help, just stay inside, I'll get it. I didn't get it, and it slipped, and half the bin landed in my arms and half landed right here and took a chunk clean out the door. So that made me pretty angry, but I just kind of shook my head and said, what am I going to do about it? I'm not going to completely reupholster the door. I have some marks running up and down the side here from where the seatbelt's been slammed in the door. The leather on the back of the seats is in good shape. The leather in the back seats is in good shape. If I pull down this middle piece right here, cup holders still work just fine. This little control right here got hit and broke on the road trip too. We had a whole bunch of stuff stuffed in the back seat here, and you can see that this part's broken in and this part's still here. I took off this little frame piece right here so that I could see if the clip was broken or if there's a little screw that came loose. Unfortunately, it was in fact a clip. However, I also found a Chuck E. Cheese token in the back of here, which totally made up for that, so we are all squared away. The rear controls do in fact work though. I haven't really tried this out too much. I guess this is stuck now and is broken. Nope, it does in fact open. The rear seat audio, I haven't really tried that out because who still uses wireless headphones? It's 2024. Same deal goes for the floor. I have my all-weather floor mats right there. The back seats still do fold as they should. They will fold down once like that, and then second with a lift. The hydraulic still does work. If I push in this little clip and then pull it down, it'll fold down like it should. However, I can't really demonstrate that because I have a hand on the camera and a hand right in front of you. The old clips right here that used to frame this in and make for a nice little trim piece, I did remove because the seatbelt kept on getting caught up. I'd pull it out and then it would get stuck out and wouldn't retract. And then obviously if you get into an accident and your seatbelt's not retracting and it's loose on you, well, that defies the point of even having a seatbelt. So I took those pieces out on both sides. It does not look as nice, but I also don't really care. And then I have the little piece removed down here because one of them broke when I was redoing this seatbelt piece. Lift this up. That's about it on this side. I'll close the door. Opening up the fifth door here, or the trunk, whatever you want to call it. if you hear that terrible noise there, I'll lock it. The lock still does work, but this piece is coming loose, which once again sucks. I had the door open. I did a lot of damage on this car during the road trip. It was open during the road trip when we were loading some stuff in, and some big gusts of wind slammed it open, and therefore it's broken. The door's in decent shape. All the clips are retained in, except for this one over here, which I took out when I was last working on the dash cam. This handle is broken, but they all break over time. It was just a matter of time before this one happened. Clips here are broken as well. I had this entire back panel removed from when I had to open up that wheel well so that I could, in fact, get it welded shut. There are scrape marks up here from who knows what. I use this thing as my daily driver, my off-roader, my truck, my work van, you name it. I have had this thing loaded up with hundreds of pounds of logs at one time while camping, driving through the backwoods trail. I'll throw that picture in now, but that really just goes to show that while I do try to treat this as a nice luxury vehicle, I also use it for whatever I need. It really comes in handy for that, and that's also why the back carpet looks like this. You see there are all kinds of stains here and here and here and here and here. I try to get them out, but that's not really going to happen at this point because it just does have so much wear on it. The carpet underneath is in pretty good shape though. No complaints. Close this door though, and then I will take you around to the third row here. I do have the third row folded up right now, but fortunately with the magic of YouTube I can say, look, what's that? That was pretty slick, right? Anyways, it remains the smallest back seat that I've ever sat in. Cup holders are still good, the back seats do latch in, and my buddy who welded that back together actually did a great job and was able to get the seat latch so perfectly buckles in so that I can have these back seats in. I was worried that I wouldn't be able to ever put that one back in again, but he did a perfect job lining up the mounts on that. When I put it all back together, I was more than ecstatic, so shout out to him. I'll actually put his tag here, so if you ever need any welding work in the Maryland area, hit him up. There are a few marks back here that you can see kind of look like cigarette marks. They are definitely burn marks, but I know exactly what that was from. It took me a little bit to figure it out, but then I realized I know exactly what it is. When I had said friend weld this back together, he said you might want to remove all of the carpet so that I don't get any burn spots or burn marks from stuff flying around on it, and I said no, it's fine. So I removed the back carpet. Like I said, I wasn't worried about that, so I just covered the back seats. Said if it burns the carpet up there, it's going to be underneath the seats. I truly don't care. And lo and behold, there are some little slag burns all over there. So nothing too bad. I'm not really bothered by it, but that's, like I said, the theme of this car, really. I'm okay enough with it looking a little indecent, but I try to keep it looking clean for the most part. Put this seat down here. Lift her on up. Lift this one on up. And you can see that this seat is pretty much exactly the same. The only difference here is that this little cap here is missing because I had to take this out at one point. And then there's no little mark in the door from where I dropped the bin on it because I didn't drop a bin in this door. Last but certainly not least, I'll show you the passenger side here. I have some camera and recording gear right here, which I will throw onto this seat right here. And you can see here that while the driver's side is in no means bad shape, this one is even better. There are less cracks, less stretch marks. The leather is 100% solid all around, not a single tear here. I'm very satisfied with how this has been over the past 300,000 miles. Obviously, this seat's going to carry less people over less travel time. But all the controls work here. Forward, back, doesn't have up, down, does have back and forth, and the lumbar does work, which I'm quite jealous of the passenger for having. It's just a shame that I can't drive this from the passenger side of the vehicle. Same stuff as I showed before, a little bit of leather tearing right here, nothing too bad. This one is in perfect shape, this one too. The passenger side, little indicator right there is completely scratched over. I don't know if that was bad cleaner or something. And you can see some dash cracking right here as well. Big chunk missing out of here. And there is a spider web of cracks just going across the whole thing. That has been like that since the day that I bought it. I'm okay with it. Some days it bugs me more than others. I'll look at it some days and think that looks like garbage, and then I'll look at it other days and say, that's not bad for 300,000 miles. This is actually starting to peel a little bit more. That chunk wasn't as bad as it was the past 100,000 miles, and this vent, for whatever reason, is sort of starting to come out. I had the whole dash up here apart at one point so that I could get in this Bluetooth radio setup, which I have in here, but that powers the dash cams. The dash cam wire I have hanging here, which kind of bugs me, but I haven't had the time to fix it. And yeah, the only other notable thing is this light is burnt out right here. I just gotta get on that. So there's a quick little outside-inside tour showing around how the vehicle looks at 304,000 miles. I would say for what it is, it's pretty good. Compared to a new model, I mean, that's no 10 out of 10. Maybe a 6.5, 7 out of 10, something like that. 7.5 maybe. But if you're comparing it to the average 300,000 mile vehicle or the average Lexus at this age, I mean, I've seen many more in worse shape. You could probably say 8.5 if you wanted to. Regardless though, the next big part is going to be getting underneath of it, taking a look at it. When the next oil change is due, I'll show you that. But for the time being, I'll take you on a quick test drive, show you how it's driving, and kind of give some overall driving impressions as well. Alrighty, so we're on the road. It's approaching dusk, as you can see. I got a little POV view going on. I'm riding around like a fool with my GoPro on my head, but just kind of to give you an update of what things look like at this mileage and how things exactly drive. I don't know how well the microphone will pick it up, but going about 45 right now. It's very quiet. The thing that I've always liked about this vehicle is just how quiet it is. For being a big, bulky SUV on all-terrain tires, it's just always ridden silent. It glides around turns. It goes over hills without putting too much stress on the engine. And if you can hear me give it a little bit of gas. That was 50 to 60. Not too much gas right there, but it makes a really nice V8 rumble while not being super overpowered there. It has adequate power whenever I'm driving around. It doesn't feel like it's lackluster or anything. The engine still sounds like it's running pretty good, and like I was showing in the clip before with the oil analysis, I'd say it definitely is. Looking around, I was saying radio and everything still works, which is nice. Climate settings, I have them off right now just because it's not too hot outside. 66 degrees, you can see there, but if I hit auto, climate controls still work. Can't complain about that. Still sucks to use them. I don't like the way that it's set up. If I do cruise control, I can set it, and I have my foot off the gas, and I'm holding a constant speed. The speed limit is 60, so I'm going to do a quick little 0 to 60 right here. As you can see, she revs up to where she should, runs through the gears without a problem, gets up to high RPMs like it should, no issues like that at all. It runs and drives just like it should. It runs and drives just like I'd expect a low mileage vehicle to. Given that it's at this high of mileage and still driving like it once did, I have no complaints whatsoever. One more 0 to 60 here with more of a focus on the dash. And you can see she's still got all the power in the world, like I said. That's going to end it here for the driving portion of the video. The Lexus is here once again for the final day of recording this video here. I have it up on the lift because I kind of wanted to give a little bit of insight here with Colby as to what it looks like underneath. I'm just going to move my way from back up to front, show you what the underside looks like, show you around the wheels, show you around underneath the skid plates, and then we will go ahead and do a quick oil change because it is at 305,000 miles now. And beyond that, show you what it's like underneath the hood. Starting with the rear end of the car here, this is honestly where the rust concerns me the most. You can see I got actual chunks breaking off of here, which sucks. I mean, that's very soft metal here. Yikes. Other than that, though, the bumper looks just about alright. Part of the sunk layer there, but it's got some mud caked onto it. No trailer hitch, as you can see, and some rust back here, but that's all surface. You can see right here, this is rigid and solid, and this is rusted off, so the bumper's not even completely intact. Trailer light brake controller, but that doesn't get used. Cab mounts are doing okay on this side, and better on this side. So, not too hateful there. The inside of the actual spare tire here isn't too bad. Peeling a little bit like the ones up front. This is rusty. You can see some rust above it, and I'm not going to drop it down because the actual drawdown mechanism of it has completely rusted out. As you can see, rust is starting to eat away at this vehicle. It's not too hateful, but it's not great either. The springs that I put in there to replace the airbags are still holding up. The old air compressor's up here as well. Differential, obviously. We replaced the track bar. We replaced the lower and upper control arms. Colby and I did, and it wasn't too terrible. The rear ones are pretty easy. I replaced the differential oil, so the drain plugs there are new. The tailpipe coming all the way back here is also fairly new as well. This is a subframe mount up here, but you can see that that's starting to get pretty nasty when it comes to rust. Fuel filler nick up there. This flange is starting to get rusty, and this is starting to rust out again, even though this is really not that old, which kind of sucks. Not really much of a way to coat it that's heat resistant that I know of, but maybe there's some way out there that I need to try. Fuel tank's doing all right. On this side, the straps seem to be intact. On the other side, they're not doing so well. I'll show you that. Drive shaft isn't very rusty. Little shock guard right here is pretty rusted out. These are the originals at 305,000 miles, and I'm starting to see that it's starting to seep. That's new. So that's... I guess I will have to replace those at some point. You see that? Looks like I will have to replace the original shocks at 305,000 miles, which really I can't be too upset by. I am more upset by this rust, though. That kind of sucks. I'm not going to poke at it too hard, because as you all know, once you start poking at a little bit of rust, the hole becomes a lot bigger, and then you want to cry inside. Here's the control arms that we replaced down here. And I think that's just about it for this side over here. Over here all looks good. The transfer case and transmission look pretty dry. You will see about the worst patch I've ever done on an exhaust, maybe even the worst that you've ever seen. That is made up out of a sheet of aluminum foil from my kitchen, an empty can of Mountain Dew that I cut in half and wrapped around, a piece of sheet metal that I had laying around the house, and 4 hose clamps. So from above, when you're standing looking at the car from the outside when it's on the ground, it looks completely fine, and that's what matters to me. So I just pretend it's not there, and then I get underneath and I look at it and I kind of think, wow, that's the worst repair I could have done. That's the cover little hole that came out when it rusted that held on this arm right here, so the arm rusted off. There's nothing holding it there. It's whatever. It's a little oily up here, maybe just for some grease, and there is a little bit of wetness right there, but that's kind of always been there, unless that gets worse. I'm not too worried about it. This flange here is a little bit rusted, not too terrible. Some rust flakes right here, which are kind of concerning because that means that the frame is starting to peel from the inside out, which I don't like. This flange here that I mentioned is a completely different story than this one here, which is rusted to be one completely solid piece. Should I ever have to change it here, I'm either getting it rusted on or I'm just getting a whole new exhaust at that point. We'll see. Exhaust is turning a little bit more orange and flaking off here around this weld here. You can see a little bit up here in this crack right there. A little bit right here as well. I don't know where that's coming from, whether it be the inside or not, but I might sand that down and prime it a little bit just to have it looking a little bit nicer. Still seems pretty structurally solid around here otherwise, though. Same type of deal over here. All looks good except for that little rust patch that's forming right there. Yeah, I don't like that at all. I think I'm going to sand and prime that at some point. Probably not today. I'll need to pick it up, but I got some stuff at home to use, so I'll get that and bring it over someday. Once again, flanges up here are pretty shot, which sucks. A little bit oily over here, but I think that's just grease coming off of here and flinging a little bit. Skid plate here is rusted on by this bolt off here, so whenever I need to remove it, I just literally bend it down, take off these 3, and keep on going. I'll remove this skid plate here because we do have to change the oil in a second. But for the time being, those are the original shocks and struts there. I can't tell. It looks like those honestly might be seeping a little bit as well, so I might be looking at a decent bit of suspension work on this thing. Oh well, once again, original 305,000. I can't complain. And same deal goes over here. Looks pretty decent all around. I had my mechanic do lower control arms, and I did the upper control arms on this thing just because these bolts were so seized that they had to be plasma cut out. Big thanks to the mechanic for doing that, because that was way too big of an ordeal for me to handle myself. New sway bar links and bushings. Radiator's new. I think that's just about all. Crash bar up there looks fine. I'm going to pull off the skid plate and do the oil change now. I'm just about done with my oil change that I'd mentioned before, which is why there's some oil residue here. You can see what it looks like from the underside here. This little support bracket right here is pretty rusted. The actual skid plate screws in here and here. This hole right here is actually so rusted out that there are no threads left in it, so when I screw on the skid plate, it is only held on with this one. So rust is starting to make its way up here too. Not too terrible. You can see I've got some rust forming on my exhaust manifold pretty bad up there, if you can even see that in there. I don't know if you can, but it's, if you can't see that, kind of right there. There you go, I focus the camera. It's not looking good. That's going to need to be replaced at some point or another, and I'm not looking forward to it when the job comes. Regardless, though, that's not too terrible underneath it here. It's about what you'd expect at mileage like this in Maryland. Nothing too hateful, nothing too great, but yeah, there's the underside here. Lastly, I'll show off kind of right around here, just in the wheel wells you can see, coated with mud a little bit. I'll have to look more on how to work on those shocks when the time comes to actually replace them. Frame along the side, once again, more cab mounts here. A little bit of rust forming underneath here, but that's just surface and not really structural. Concern right here is that the fact that my fuel tank straps are completely rusted off. You can hear it just flapping around on the hinge right there. It's pretty much only held on by the skid plate at this point, and this one's just about gone right here too. Lines that run down here look fine. Shock mounts back here are a lot easier to access, so when the time comes, I'll actually get on replacing those. And on the other side here, it's a pretty similar story. Nothing too exciting. We'll go ahead, take it down, fill it up with oil, start it up, and then show you the last part, which will be mechanically what we've done. The Lexus is back outside, and I'm going to go ahead and start it up so that I can show you the final part of the video here, which is looking under the hood and mechanical wise. 305,268 miles. Let's pop the hood. That's the gas cap. That's the hood. I'm going to go ahead and pop the hood here. There she is. The hood struts are original. I took them off the old hood when I replaced them. The insulation is original, also out of the old hood. This is original here, but this actual latch piece here, which was $110 from Lexus, is new because I had to change it when I hit the deer. This cover is here. It's not held down by anything. You can see that most of the parts under here are original. I spilled a little bit of oil, which is why it looks oily down there. It does not leak from up there. Cover right here, original of course, very dirty. I do need to go ahead and clean that. And then you can see my timing belt replacement over here, 12/20 of 2020. It needs to be done again soon in about 5,000 miles because the service interval is 90,000 miles. You can also see, if you know your GXs, that there's a cover missing right here. And this latch actually broke off, but the electrician in me just drilled through what was left of it there. I put in a piece of copper wire, and the latch actually works just like it should to hold down the airbox lid. There's still a buckle dent right here from where I hit the deer. You can see that we kind of pulled this out right here using a piece of pipe. We fastened it back here and pulled it, and that was the most that we could get that dent out. It was enough for everything else to line up though, and I've kind of coated it a little bit time after time just to prevent it from rusting too bad. Not too worried about it. This is also loose, as you saw from before. It's kind of more of a little framing cosmetic piece, so I'm not too worried about it. The clips kind of hold it in as is. Horns are original. Little power steering cooler down here. Fan works with the AC, but the AC is not on, which is why you see it. There's a small coolant leak underneath of here. I have to address that at some point or another. Haven't gotten on it. That's also why the coolant level's only up to here, but that's from here to here in about 3 months. 4 months actually, so not too upset about that. Power steering line did go out at one point. That's been replaced. The power steering pump is still original though. Washer fluid reservoir right here. Leaks up a little bit top, close to the filler neck, about where my finger is down there, if you can see that. The timing belt, the water pump, and the serpentine belt are coming up on about 90,000 miles like I was saying before, so I'll probably go ahead and do all three at once. Fan's original, fan clutch is original. The AC compressor did go out on me at one point, so it is on its second AC compressor in my ownership, and the actual fourth AC compressor in its entire lifespan. I don't know why it's chewed through so many, if the repairs were done poorly before I owned it, but that's just what it is. The alternator, which I made a video on, was a pain to replace, but that went out at about 250,000 miles, I think. Other than that, though, I believe all the accessories are original. This thing is pretty original engine-wise. I mean, completely original engine-wise, but bolt-on parts is pretty original as well. She served me well, and I'm hoping that she continues to do so. Battery's, of course, not original, and starting to corrode a little bit, but I really can't complain. Above all, though, you can hear that she does still, in fact, sound healthy. So there you have it. There's how my Lexus GX470 is looking at 300,000 miles, now 305,000 miles. There's of course some things that need to be fixed, plenty that I have fixed, plenty that is going to need to be fixed, but all in all, I really can't complain. It's been a great car to me. I have no plans on getting rid of it anytime soon. I'm hoping that it continues to grow on me, continues to serve me well, and keep me going through the next 300,000 miles. Thank you guys for watching. For those of you who've stuck around this long, I've made some more GX videos, so be sure to check them out. And there's going to be more where that came from. Thanks for watching. Colby says bye.
Bye.